for some reason, they wanted me to turn the volume up, and usually I don't have to do that.
Yeah. Okay, it's setting things up. Done. Redirecting to YouTube.
Fun guys. Shout out to them.
There we go. Okay, so mute that, pop the chat out.
Remember, Jeff's not going to be here.
Yeah, Jeff or Jay.
Right, Jay, too. Right.
Yeah. So it could be just the two of us.
No.
Well, everybody's busy. I know, you know how that goes. Do I have? God, I hope so.
Stream looks good. Plexicam was giving me a fits. The thing fell apart of me as I was moving it.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
Darn. Well, that's okay. I'll just go with it.
We got 3 in there.
Okay. So, oh yes, I know. Yes, I know it's all being live streamed. I'm live streaming it.
Webb and Cletus are in there. Hey, hello, fellows.
Okay. So, hit that. Facebook. I need Facebook. I was running way late today, and so I didn't get a chance to do some of the things I wanted to do. Darn, I don't want to lose that. That over there. Take this over here. What was I just? Oh, Facebook. Man. If I forget my name tonight, David, be sure to remind me. It really does seem like just things are getting crazier by the second.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand why. It just is.
Turn the lights down a bit. That looks good.
So we have announcements coming one day.
We do. I already put my day off in.
Yeah, I marked my calendar off or out too. It's going to be, I think, really interesting. I'm almost afraid of it to see what happens with my credit card.
I'm gonna have to hold back my budget. Got some other bigger expenses going on right now. But I'll drool.
Popcorn sounds good. I'll be in it. Okay, Cletus, go ahead. Get the popcorn. Okay.
Drink a little whiskey and sing a little bass. That's the way to go, Webb.
Yeah. Yeah, after today, I think I could use it. I can use something.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah, I think it's. Did you see? I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. I need to do some more research. Did you see the adapter or the dock or whatever from Hyper that lets? It's like, okay, Yeah, well, I mean, Hyper does some really great stuff.
They do.
And it sounded like, to their credit, that they've taken two established technologies, built them into the box, so that there are very few, if any, there may be one hoop you have to jump through, as I understood it,
Right.
launch a utility app to have it function. But I think that's really going to be really interesting to see, just how well that works. But
Yeah,
even the pricing wasn't bad.
129. The refresh rate was kind of, it was the HDMI 1 was 60 hertz, HDMI 2 was 30 hertz. So the refresh rate's kind of low.
Okay, you dug in a little deeper than I did.
Yeah,
And
that's like that's all I mentioned.
And ironically, that's going to come out the day, as they're announcing we're going to get new MacBooks next week.
Right.
So,
Figures.
but I don't know about you, and we're doing the show before the show, I guess, but I would be a little surprised if we saw anything in the MacBook line except Pros.
Yeah, it's totally Pros.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's going to be at least one more person. That's good.
Good. Mr. Jim Ray.
Yes. Where are my notes? I have notes here.
Hey, Jim.
Can't hear you, Jim. Sorry.
Now you should be able to hear me.
Now we hear you.
And look, now I'm tilted.
Your green screen's off the edge.
You can't have everything. Which side is? It's this side. I have to get it closer.
There you go.
Wow, are we it?
So far,
it's got 5 minutes.
5 minutes to go. Nobody wants to rush into anything. Either that, or they figure tonight's topic is boring.
Well, at least 3 people have said they're not coming.
Who's the third?
Mark Fuccio.
Oh, did Mark say? I missed that.
I just saw that when I went to look for the Zoom.
Oh, I missed that. Oh my, where is it?
Yeah, he just posted it a few minutes, like 3 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago.
I just saw. Yeah, I was driving and eating. I didn't see any of these. So
hopefully it was good.
It'll keep me going for another 20 minutes or so.
Why isn't YouTube coming up?
I've got it live. I don't know.
Yep, we're live.
Yeah, no. I'm trying to bring it up so I can watch the chat, and it's not working.
The mic, open their mic for the rest of us.
Huh.
I lost my note.
Yeah, I just get a bunch of blank squares that look like placeholders for YouTube videos.
That's strange.
I know.
There's Warren.
I guess I won't be watching the YouTube chat today.
Try a different browser.
Yeah, it took it right out of my word.
Well,
Words right out of my
I'm
mouth.
using Chrome, which is usually the only one that works for me. Let me try it, Safari.
And there goes Warren.
Easy come, easy go. Look, it is working in Safari.
Hey, Paul.
That is bizarre.
Well, if you are looking for bizarre, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
$7.59, and there are three of us. Wow,
Yeah.
that's-
Where is everybody?
I don't know. Guess we scared them.
Brittany usually is running late with their meeting.
Yeah.
Kelly, sometimes.
Sometimes she's late. We know
She's
Jeff's
late.
not going to be here.
Yeah.
We need Patrice. Patrice!
Yeah, Patrice said he was or she was going to come today.
Yeah.
Did she?
So, I thought
felt-
so. I thought.
Yeah, she's off
was
this
gonna
week.
Yeah, this was the second week. Well, she fell asleep, which is possible given what time it
That's what I
is
say.
in her neck of the woods. So,
Yeah, she's coming on my show Thursday.
well, maybe she's resting up.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I was hoping Warren would be here for the opening statements, but there. Speak her name and she appears.
Kelly,
No.
Brittany,
And Warren.
Patrice.
Here comes Warren.
We're worried about you, Patrice.
Hey.
I
Why are you
summoned
worried
you,
about me?
and you came.
That you were not going to be here.
Oh no. Well, I was
You made it. You made it. Hello, Warren.
Hey, Warren,
How are you? Hey,
are you out of the basement yet?
I escaped over the weekend, so yes,
good.
I am free and clear. Still not feeling 100%, but you know, I'm here. So there you
Right.
go.
I was just talking to my neighbor earlier today, and they are Egyptian, although they've lived here for decades, but still have relatives, and they had gone back to Egypt, and he just got back, but he said his wife is stuck in Egypt because she had a positive test.
So we're
So,
real fast. We're flying. So my son's in Dublin. He had a quarantine for a week, and we're flying out a week from Friday to visit him in Dublin. So we're going to visit him, and then we're going to London for a bit because my wife's working and we used to live there. You could fly out there, no problem. Nobody cares. You just have to have a vaccination record, which we have. You can't come back without a PCR test or a letter from your doctor. And what I found out is COVID lasts forever on the PCR test. So I have I'm negative on a rapid, but the PCR test will be positive for months and months and months and months. Same with my wife and my son. So I had to go to my doctor, get a letter saying, and it's like, I just need a letter saying I'm good to travel. And my doctor's like, all right. I mean, I'm like, I need one for my wife too. All right.
Gives you real faith in the system.
Hey,
I
Brittany.
mean-
Hello, Brittany.
What else
yeah, I
can
got to
do?
thank Brian in the chat room for giving me advice on how to connect to YouTube, which I couldn't see because I couldn't connect to YouTube.
Oh,
Okay.
Brittany, you liking your case?
it's like when you have to Google.
Thank you
Google.
so much.
Good.
Look what I got.
I owe you a drink when I meet you in person.
Yes.
I'm going green. Wait,
Oh, he's got his iPad Pro, his iPad Mini.
I got my iPad Mini with a green case. I got my green watch. I got my green phone case. All that's missing is my green watch that I get on Friday. So I'm going green. I'm going green, like environmentally friendly green.
That's too bad it's not spring. but hey, you take what you can get.
Yeah.
But
All
yeah,
right.
the mini is awesome. Actually, I kind of really love it.
All right, well, let's do this. The recording is running. Everything is looking good. Everybody sounds reasonably level on their audio. So,
And we all have underpants.
we all have underpants. Yeah, that word had to come up, didn't it?
I might need to.
Yeah, but at least I got it out of the way, not when you're counting.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
I might need to put you. If you see my camera, I might go for a minute. It's my wife calling me from Chicago, so I'll be back if that happens.
That's important. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live. It's Tuesday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever time it is, wherever you are. We're in the YouTube chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us there while you watch us. You can throw in comments, questions, thoughts, whatever you think is appropriate to throw at us, and we'll try to do our best to respond. First of all, I have a couple things to announce or talk about, but I'm going to go around the room and make sure we get the panel introduced because I almost blew it last week. So let's start. I guess we'll do the normal order. Mr. David Ginsburg. David, good to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me, Chuck. Having some fun times this week, and we got some good announcements to talk about too.
We are having fun times. Okay, yes. After the day I've had, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Jim Ray is with us again. Jim, good to have you.
You just can't get rid of me.
Why would we want to?
You said you hesitated before you said again, as if.
No, we're just glad you're back.
Sounds like he tried.
Thanks for the support there, Patrice. Speaking of which, Patrice Brendamore is back. Patrice, good to have you as always.
Well, and it's not what is it, Tuesday night? It's actually Wednesday morning here. So
don't you have any better way to spend your vacation than to hang out with this crew?
I guess not.
Yeah.
I guess not. No.
We're sorry.
No, it's fun. I was actually looking forward to this. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're here. Warren Sklar is still in the basement. Warren, good to have you back. I hope you're feeling better.
I am, and I'm still here, but I did escape, and I got some fresh air the last 2 days. I've been back to work, so that's good. And I'm excited to be here and talk some exciting stuff going on today.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Good to have you. And last but absolutely not least, Brittany Smith has left her meeting early or canceled it or something, and she's here right on time.
I'm here. Happy to be here, Chuck. Thanks.
How'd you do it this time, Brittany?
That's my secret.
Oh, okay. All right. We won't tell anybody. Yeah. We won't tell anybody. So a couple things on my radar before we get into tonight's discussion. First thing, as you can tell, I'm still in pink. It is still Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I was corrected last week. It also is ADHD Awareness Month. But one of the topics we're going to touch on tonight is it's also Cybersecurity Awareness Month. October is a busy month with lots of designations. So that's
and Halloween too. Don't forget Halloween. Yeah. That's really important.
Well, Halloween. Yeah.
Well, it's not. Yeah, but that's not an awareness month. That's a holiday.
We need to be aware of spooks.
And we had Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yeah, Halloween Awareness Month. That's the thing.
When Chuck's shirt turns orange, automatically we'll know it's Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm going to set up an automation to turn his lights orange without his consent.
Oh, good. That's nice. That's just what I need. And making a late entry, Ms. Kelly Gamont has arrived.
Hey.
Hello, Kelly. Can you hear us yet? She's looking confused. Like maybe I can, maybe I can't.
You have to accept all this stuff now before it actually.
Yeah.
I think she can't hear us.
No,
I couldn't for a minute. It's okay now.
Okay.
Kelly.
Okay. Welcome. Good to have you.
Hi.
Good to have you,
Good to be
Kelly.
here.
So the one thing I wanted to mention that, and this will warm the cockles of Warren's heart. But
Yes, I will.
I saw Nick Clegg on, Nick Clegg is the VP of Facebook's Global Affairs. He was on Meet the Press this week. And I have to tell you, they should put him in charge, or at least as the major spokesperson, and send Zuck out to sail or whatever he's doing, because he did a really decent job. There wasn't a lot of apologizing. There were explanations, and they weren't the usual, well, we just, kind of fuzzy wuzzy explanations. He talked about exactly just what happened and how it happened, and some of the decisions they're making, and what they think the reality of combating hate speech is. I will have a link in the show notes, and I will also throw it into the chat rooms here in just a second. If you think it's worth your time, go and listen to it. I don't know whether you'll agree or not, but I just have to say it's probably the first time I've been really honestly impressed with a Facebook representative trying to address some of these things. Did anybody else by any chance see it? Okay.
No, but I've seen Sheryl Sandberg take over here and there, and she's not bad either. Zuck is just he's not a spokesperson, but he should be behind the scenes. He's very smart, but people have a hate for him, rightfully or wrong, and he should accept that and allow other people to take over. And I think that's not a bad thing. Kind of like Steve Ballmer kind of did for Microsoft,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I was really, this sounded like a business person, as opposed to, with all due respect to Zuck's status as a founder, it just sounded like this was a grown-up in the room, and that, at least for me, that made a lot of difference. So, we'll see how it goes. And I'm just throwing the link into both chat rooms. So there you go. So with that, I think we have to talk about the fact that as we record this today, Apple announced that we will be seeing new Macs next Monday.
And they didn't even
Well,
check with my schedule first.
I know. They didn't check with Brittany. It's a
Nope.
huge problem.
And they didn't actually say that we would be seeing new Macs.
They did not.
That's
No.
true.
I'm thinking
They
it's
could
going to
be
be
releasing. They could be
Air
releasing
power.
something
Power.
else. Like, I don't know.
That's right.
It's going to be air
New-
power, just
So-
air power.
New iPhone sucks.
It's
awesome.
it's the iPod Touch event. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
it could
Yeah,
be.
I think
Okay.
it's the AirPod Pro Max Max.
I wasn't around for it, but I hear I'm owed some kind of iPod socks.
Yeah.
Everybody got a pair.
Go ahead and look
And
on
if
I
you were
Twitter.
lucky,
I
if you're
never
early
did.
enough, you got a bumper for your iPhone 4.
Didn't get one of those either.
I got one.
Oh,
my
I got
bumper
one of
somewhere.
No
Yeah.
socks,
socks
no
on eBay.
bumpers.
Yeah.
Well,
You
it
have a
seems
Mac
like this-
128.
It seems like this
And,
almost
and a
certainly
YouTube
has-
album. The things we got for free was a bumper and a YouTube
Yeah.
album.
Okay.
I think
Calm
that
down,
might be it.
I'm out of control. I've lost control already. It's just like 4 minutes into the show. Yeah, I think this seems
Max
logical
is
that this
coming.
would be the last Apple event of the season.
Mhm.
So if you're going to see the M1 X Max or whatever they're going to call them, it would seem logical that this will be.
I mean,
the event.
they did 3 shows last year, so it's not impossible. I mean, I don't know what they would announce, but it's
Yeah,
it's
no,
possible.
it's going to
Okay.
be Macs. I was
Was
just
it-
pulling your leg. They didn't actually say anything about Macs,
No.
but it's
They
got to
never
be
do.
Macs.
They didn't
Patrice,
do. I thought did they do 3 shows or 3 press releases right after another? I kind of
No, they had a third show last year.
it was
But there was
3
one
events
year,
last
maybe the
year.
year before, there was 3 press releases. Remember, like
Yeah.
one like press release, and another.
Right.
one
It was like every-
AirPods.
That was like
Friday?
a week or so before WWDC. They did,
Mhm.
I think, like 4 days in a row.
Yeah, they
Monday,
cleared the
Tuesday,
deck.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
So the new Macs are definitely more than a press release. Although when they did it last time, there was sort of major things coming out. I kind of remember.
So, seriously, it was last year that they did one a month for 3 months in a row.
Mhm. Yes.
This
And the
morning-
September event wasn't even the iPhone event last year.
But this morning on TDO, I was like, they did like at one point they did like 3 in a row, but I can't remember when that was. Like it seems like it was a thing that
20
happened,
years
but I
ago?
can't remember. Yeah. So
Mm.
that's why I'm so
Yeah.
entertained that like, oh yeah, it was a year ago. So yeah.
All a
Yeah,
blur.
I don't know. Did they do one in November? I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. What
Yes.
was it
They-
November? Okay, then.
Yeah,
What?
they did the Apple Watch and iPad in September, iPhone in October, and Mac in
Uh-huh.
November.
Hmm.
That was last
Oh,
year. It feels
that's
like
right.
20 years ago.
October's historically been Mac
The
Yeah.
announcements.
the laptops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it
we
could be
will-
socks. It could be a new MacBook, but you never
Yeah.
know.
by the time we get together again, we will know what it is
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
how much of a hole they've burned in whose credit card.
Unrelated. Unrelated. I have a couple of MacBooks for sale. Unrelated to any of this.
Do they have serial
See-
numbers,
see if they-
Warren?
They have serial numbers. Yes, they all do.
If they come out with the 16-inch Pro I've been hoping for,
Mm.
but I promise I didn't bro plane about it like people Kelly was talking about. Anyway, all I have to do is get this one to eat it a third time, and I get some credit towards it. So
I smelled this coming a few days ago. Seriously, and I went to the online sites and I put my computers in for for a lock price and for selling. So if you haven't done that, do that now. If you are thinking about selling anything, because it's a good time to do that.
Are you getting good prices, Warren?
I'm only selling. I have the M1 Mini, which I'm on now. I got a 13-inch MacBook Air that I put up. They're giving. I got $675 as an offer for it, which is not bad because I mean
like-
that the Air I've seen on sale now at Best Buy for like 800. So I mean,
Mm.
it's not
That's like
terrible.
2/3 the price of a year-old machine. That's not too bad.
It's not too bad. And I sold my Pro for the Mini, so I got some money back from that, and I sold a Windows laptop the other day. So I'm good. I'm ready. So to bring it on, either the 14 or 16, depending on what they are. So
What I'm hearing is any minute now, Warren's going to spin off Crazy Warren's House of Apple Gear or something and just start like a swap meet somewhere.
I would love to do that. I had too many screens. There's a point in your life where you're just looking at too many screens and you have to consolidate. So that's what I did.
So I don't want to waste too much time on this because we have some more timely things to talk about. And this is all speculation, but what one, I mean, the rumors I've read, and correct me if anyone's seen anything different, the 16-inch MacBook Pro and a redesigned Mac Mini seem to be the neck and neck on the favorites.
And a
Mhm.
14.
So-
14. I'm hearing a 14 and a 16.
Okay,
coming
yeah.
out of there.
Okay, that would make sense. So what, I mean, real quick, what feature set, and I'll go around the room so each of you get a turn, but what would cause you to make the change if you're in the market for a machine at all? So, and I'm going to start in reverse this time. Kelly?
I am not in the market because I have an M1 from last fall. So, and behind me is also an M1 machine. So I don't think either of those are in the market to be upgraded right now. I think what we're going to get though is redesign. And I think part of the mini conversation is redesign on what the mini is going to look like going forward. And I think we're going to get refreshed outsides for the laptops as well. I think they just figured out how to put Apple Silicon in the chassis that they have, and we're going to get a look at some new ones, and probably that new form factor is going to have something to do with the new sizes.
Okay. Brittany, you said you want a 16-inch MacBook Pro.
yeah, although I might be able to hold out on this one if it doesn't have an SD card slot. And it's not because I take a lot of external pictures. It's because when I had a computer with USB-A, I used these tiny little drives to keep whole video projects on. So I could pop it in and out and swap between video projects and not all have to keep it locally. And they don't make them in USB-C, but they do make huge SD cards. So in order to get that workflow back, so if it has an SD card, I sort of feel like my hands are tied and I need to, but I might limp along on the Air longer if it doesn't.
Okay, I can't let that go. But I can't let that go. I need to drill down just a little. So
Okay.
you kept the video projects on the card. I mean, I understand the concept. Was the card fast enough to do
Yeah,
editing and all?
they're little flash drives. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way faster than having
Okay.
your computer be too full.
Well, that's true too. Okay. Interesting.
And so I could pop one project out and, eject it, but I could keep it attached all the time. So there's no, oh, oops, I forgot to eject it properly, because it would just live in there until I swap projects.
Okay. Warren, since you're going to be Macless, you're selling everything and buying new. What will be
not
the
until I
driving
get a new
factor?
one. Just screen size. If my Air was 16-inch and exactly the same shape and performance and ports, I would be happy. The M1 is super fast. I can't imagine needing more, but the screen size is something. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so I like the bigger screen.
Okay, interesting.
Says the new owner of an iPad Mini.
that was an impulse purchase thing going on there. So, but real quick, the other night Dave showed us this awesome thing where I can make everything bigger on my screen.
That's true.
And now it's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Patrice, what would cause you to dig out your credit card?
I mean, honestly, not all that much, because I've been in the market for a new Mac Mini property for the last 2 years. I just couldn't do it last year, and then financially, and decided to just wait. So anything new on the Mac Mini, especially if it supports bigger screens and more I/O, that's my machine. I just need more ports. The current Mini, the current M1 Mini is not good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I get to Jim, I will ask the chat room, what would cause you guys to dig into your pockets and buy something new? What feature or features would make a difference? Jim, how about you?
Well, I probably won't be buying a machine because I was waiting, and I guess end of June I couldn't wait anymore, and I bought a 13-inch M1 machine. So I probably am not going to turn around and buy another one. I was waiting for the 16-inch. That's what I really wanted. But I'm pretty happy with the 13-inch. But I'm still super excited about this event, and I am really interested. What I'm interested in is less particular computers, but what are they doing with the evolution of the processor? What's the performance going to be? What are the ports? How much memory is it going to allow? They've titled this Unleashed, and to me, I'm expecting a blockbuster announcement on the processor side. Maybe it's, a lot faster, or maybe it's, more memory or more ports or all those things. But, that to me is, I'm really excited about what have they been doing in the last year with that processor architecture. And, I'm sure they'll have interesting, all this interesting computers to put it into. And, most likely the 16 and 14, because I think those are the big sellers that everybody's waiting for. But yeah, I'm just really can't wait. And they're bringing it to us a day early.
It's not Tuesday, which is weird. Yeah.
I was trying to
but
figure out if Tuesday's a day of
no, Tuesday is
holiday
was
or
it
anything.
Google or Microsoft event? Something is on that day.
Are we really going to believe that Apple
Really?
gives one rat's ass about what Google is announcing?
Depends on how much they know about what's being announced.
I think it's Indigenous CEO Day, and that's why they're not having it on Tuesday.
I don't know, but I can't imagine Apple's going to schedule or have their schedule. I'm sure this was set up a long time ago before they knew that Google was going to do that.
Is that what it is? Is Google has a thing on Tuesday?
Well, apparently they do, but
The
Well,
Pixel.
that
Yeah,
would-
but
That would make sense.
yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time that Apple has tried to take all the oxygen out of the room.
Well,
Mm.
what I don't know what time is Google. They're going to take the oxygen out of the room no matter what.
That's
Yeah,
true.
but it will be more if they can do it a day early.
Well, then they should do it 3 days early.
Oh, that's a Saturday.
Wouldn't you do it
so-
after if you were trying to co-opt it?
You might, but that's a really interesting thing. That if it is the Pixel, Google's Pixel, then that would just completely overshadow even a day's worth of coverage.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If it's really something unleashed. So
No.
we'll see.
And
David,
it's
how
not
about
just
you?
vaporware.
Well, I'm not thinking vaporware, Patrice. I hope that Unleashed isn't ramping our expectations up too much. Because I'm like you guys. I'm with Jim. I feel like that title, there's a lot to be lived up to.
Yeah,
in
they
in
could
an event
unleash.
called-
They could unleash Apple TV Plus.
Probably
I don't know.
Good.
they
Probably
could,
not.
but
They
yeah.
could.
Yeah. David,
Or
how about
finally
you?
do something with the HomePod.
What would dig into your pocket?
Right now, I've got the M1 Mac Mini I got the end of last year, and it's been working awesome for me. My Intel 15-inch MacBook Pro, it's getting up there in age, but it's been doing the job for me. So financially, I'm just not ready to just pull anything out of my wallet just yet. So I'll kind of see how things go next year as things progress here. But I'm pretty happy with the M1 Mac Mini right now, and we'll stick with that for now.
Okay. Brian in the chat room says he's thinking about an Air. The M1 would be fine, but he wouldn't want to throw $20-$21 for a 2020 hardware. So he's not in a rush, which, fair point. Webb says he's looking for the new 16-inch MacBook Pro to replace his 2013 laptop. Wow. Good for you, Webb. You've really kept that going for a while.
Yeah.
There was a rumor of a new MacBook Airs in the colors of the 24-inch iMac. That was
be
a
awesome.
rumor which I think would be cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was thrown out there a couple weeks ago, so you never know.
I had to laugh at Brian's comment, not because it's funny in its own right, but because that's a thing that Brian Chaffin says over at Mac Observer constantly and had said forever about the iMac was, I don't want to pay $2019 or $2020 or $2021 for a 2017 machine. And that was like his stance against the iMac Pro forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And so it was just very funny to hear a very Brian Chaffin sentence out of someone else who is also named Brian. So it just struck me as very funny.
But you can get the 2020 Air fairly cheap now. I mean, I've seen on sale.
Oh yeah.
Even today,
my God.
it's $800. I think you could get it for it.
Yeah.
And it's a great machine. So I mean, Brian out there, and if you want it, buy it. I mean, I have no issues at all with the MacBook Air. I have the M1 Air. It's beautiful. It's great.
Yeah, they're wonderful machines. My work computer is an M1 Air, and it's awesome and it does absolutely everything I need it to do. Granted, I'm not doing like serious audio or video editing with it. The only audio editing I do, as a matter of fact, I do on my iPad Pro, but it's super duper capable. And I think part of the problem that Apple is going to have with these is convincing people, particularly if you've been a casual computer user for a long time and you know that you need maximum storage and maximum RAM and all that kind of stuff, like convincing people that because what Apple is doing with the system on a chip stuff is fundamentally different than anything that came before, it's going to be sort of hard to convince people but you will do fine with 8 gigabytes of RAM. You will do fine with, just a MacBook Air, right? Like there's a lot I think that Apple sort of is up against with that.
I had the 16-inch Pro and I had the M1 Air.
Mm-hmm.
I got rid of the 16-inch Pro because the Air was faster and quieter.
Yeah, it's such a good machine.
Yeah.
Patrice mentioned HomePods, and now I'm like, HomePod Mini would be, because that was one of last year at the iPhone event was when we got the HomePod Mini. And so now I'm like, maybe more HomePods are coming, like big ones, small ones, whatever. Maybe they'll come in iMac colors too. Who knows? But
That would be cool.
I would love that.
So Brian followed up his comment with says, yeah, that's where he got that saying, credit Brian Chaffin. And he also says, if I needed it, probably would, but at the moment, it'd probably be nice to have product in my workflow. So, you know, I think there obviously has to be a lot of wait and see. Just a 16-inch MacBook Pro is not going to necessarily satisfy me. I want to see, you know, what the specs are and what I'm being given. Because right now, the one reason I really haven't transitioned over to the MacBook Air as a main production machine is it can only drive one monitor, and that's one external monitor.
They released
that's an
something
issue.
today.
Not
Yeah,
anymore.
well, yeah, well, the
We all saw
hyperdrive
it
thing.
today. Yeah.
But that's I listen. Hyper does some great stuff and all. I just feel, I want to
like a
see
hack.
a lot more details before I come to depend on that.
It's definitely a hack. They're somehow splitting I think they're converting DisplayPort to HDMI out, something like that.
They're doing some sort of magic, and I don't know what it is, but the thing to remember about Hyper is that they were the company that started making MacBook, like I think at the time it was PowerBook batteries, where they would make the battery pack and then you would supply the MagSafe cable so that you could plug the proprietary MagSafe cable. Like that's where Hyper got their start, was like routing around Apple hardware nonsense. And so if this is just them routing around Apple hardware nonsense again, I feel like they have a history of doing so. And so I definitely want to find out more about what they're doing. I've seen some people do reliable display link things with 2 screens and a dock, you know, and have the laptop open and be able to drive 2 monitors with it still. And that's gotten a lot better. Last year, when I got my machine, it very much felt like a dark art, and it was like, you know, it only works if you plug both monitors in at the stroke of midnight under a full moon, and you know, that sort of thing. And now it seems like it's a lot less gyration to make something like that happen. So I'm hopeful that maybe that experience has improved, and so maybe I can run both my screens with one computer now, and that would be awesome.
They did mention.
Go ahead.
They did mention during the specs, and Chuck and I talked this pre-show, that the refresh rates are kind of low. On HDMI 1 connection, it's at 60 hertz, but at the second connection is only 30 hertz. So it might be a little bit of a concern refresh rate wise if those are looking at being a little better in that sense. But no, I mean, I'm glad they've got technology, because that's been the challenge. Why, for gosh sakes, you can't even hook 2 monitors up to a computer? that's like so old school.
Yeah, I mean,
my bet is Monday.
But ultimately,
we'll see it change. I bet Monday the new MacBooks are going to allow more than that. The rumor says it's going to have 16 gigs of memory to start. So I bet it changes.
I mean, it doesn't even matter which company it is. Like no company can work around the physical limitations, and if the bandwidth is not there, the bandwidth is not there. Like that's why.
Which is crazy, because it's Thunderbolt 3. I mean, on both the MacBook Air and the Mini, it's supposed to have the most bandwidth of any, you know.
Well, it does, but if the motherboard doesn't have another port or whatever,
video,
you know,
if your performance is what it is.
It's a evolution of a phone processor. Like, you know, it sucks because it's the new thing, and you know, Kelly first got her set up, it was lots of sad making, but you know,
it was there. It was very sad.
But being an evolution of a phone processor, we're not quite as surprised that wasn't one of the things that was built in already.
Yeah, but no,
it should have been. But
but let's not forget that this is Apple's consumer level machine. This is not, you know, I mean, we're all talking about MacBook Pros as opposed to, you know, a MacBook Air. And so as a result, you know, you have to have something to differentiate between one and the other.
But then again, But then again, Apple shipped a 13-inch MacBook Pro.
Right.
So
Yeah,
That's what Kelly
true.
has.
yeah.
But
That's
It
the
has
mini
Pro
behind
Mini.
me, the mini
I-
behind me will easily do 2 displays with.
Oh yeah,
Well,
I'm on the
I
M1
mean,
Mini with 2 displays.
Yeah,
easily.
because
Because
it
it's a
doesn't
mini,
have
yeah.
because it doesn't have a
Right.
display in it.
I know, but
So there, it's two
Yeah.
displays total. But
Yeah.
I've gone through my entire career without ever hooking, having more than 2 displays going on a computer. So
yeah.
I've never needed that. So that restriction hasn't bothered me at all. I mean, I could see how some people it would, but I think that's a pretty small. There aren't that many people that are gonna that was a limitation for.
Yeah, but
But
we're really loud about it.
I know.
And it's not just about 2 displays. I mean, it also goes down to like only having 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports.
Yes, yes.
If
That-
that
well,
is
that's a
something that you
different-
need,
That's a different question,
That's
but you
different
can solve
conversation.
that now. Dave and I both have Thunderbolt hubs, and you
Yeah.
can add more Thunderbolt.
you can add more ports, but you can't add more speed. Like it has
Yeah.
2 lanes and that's it. Like
My
Yeah.
problem with it is that just having it on one side, and I know it's stupid, but there's a lot of times where I really wish I could plug it in the power on the other side, like the pros, like the old pros, the Intel pros had the 4 Thunderbolts.
Warren,
So
you're exactly right on that. That is stupid, and I'm right there with you because it is so nice to be able to plug things in on either side. Absolutely. I would have told you that would have been lowest on my priority list before we got what we have now. And now
Yeah.
it's like, I really want that every time.
Well, and it sounds like they're going to take that away from you
Maybe.
because
maybe not.
because
Yeah.
the rumor is it's going to have a separate power port now.
Well, but that does not necessarily mean that you can plug in the USB-C and power it from
Yeah,
that.
people keep saying that, but
Well,
that
we
that
don't know
would-
yet.
Thunderbolt,
that we
Yeah.
don't
Isn't
know yet.
Thunderbolt
Will be
4
interesting to see, but that seems wacky that they would have a power port and it'd also be like, okay, now I have to use up one of my USB-C ports for power. And what if they take away a USB-C port because they've added this power port? I'm hoping that, I don't know, it sounds like that probably is going to have this, whatever, some kind of MagSafe, but to me that seems like a total step back. I would much rather have it continue to be USB-C for the power.
Mhm.
That sounds like, Apple's like, oh, we got used to this sweet revenue of selling people all these power adapters. Remember how much that used to cost us?
Mhm.
And now I've got USB-C power bricks all over the place, and I'm just like, wherever I go, zip, and those days may be over.
Well, we will find out
Thunderbolt
Monday.
4 if it's hubbable like Thunderbolt 4, there's no real reason they can't put 4
Yeah.
ports
Mhm.
on a
I mean-
even now. 'cause-
Well, physical space.
Well,
On a
on-
16-inch.
And Brittany needs her SD card.
Yeah, on an existing machine. The thing is, like, these are the machines I think a lot of people might actually have been waiting for, because like we took an iPad Pro and we stuck it in a mini chassis. Is a thing that happened. Like, that's basically what these machines are. Like, I'm not, like, we took a nice beefy iPad Pro and we stuck it in the aluminum back there, or we stuck it in the, the laptop I have here on my desk. And I love it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they were taking, like, here's the, production situation for the machines that we have. And we just need to figure out how to put our processor into that situation. And so now Apple gets to design the situation from the ground up. And I really hope that we don't hear any ests in this. I don't want to hear thinnest. I don't want to hear lightest. I don't want to hear skinniest. I want a screen that's a little thicker so that you can give me a decent FaceTime camera. I want something that's an ounce heavier so that you can give me extra battery. I want something that's slightly thicker so Brittany can have an SD card slot so that she doesn't have some sort of sad making situation with her new M1 machine like I did. Like, I want all of those things to happen the way that they could. And so like these are the ones I've been looking forward to, just like Jim was saying, like this is the revolution track. Like they sort of went evolution first with, can we jimmy our stuff into the Intel layout, and so now that they don't have, now that that's sort of unencumbered them, I want to know what these are going to look like for a bunch of reasons. Number one, they got to design them themselves. Number two, Johnny Ive was a lot less involved with this round, I would imagine. So they don't have to be, they don't have to be thinnest. They don't have to be lightest. They don't have to bend if you sit on them because you put your computer in your back pocket because you're a dude and men's pants do that, I guess. Like, yeah, that's a separate show. Sorry. But like, that's the thing about this event is that I'm really looking forward to it to find out what Apple has gotten to do with their stuff when it's all them from the ground up, all the way from the inside, all the way out. That's the thing that I'm trying to that I am looking forward to seeing. I have no interest in one aside from as a spectator. Where's Apple headed with this? Where are things going? Is there going to be a Mac Pro that they roll out on those spendy wheels at this event? Like what this is Apple, planting a flag in the ground for what the next decade's going to look like. And I want to know what that's going to be.
I want to see iMac pants now.
I want to see a razor.
Kelly,
a razor thin
I would like all
16-inch
the
Pro.
things that you're saying. I would like those too. And we'll see. Joni is gone, but I mean, there are Intel laptops that have more ports and SD cards and stuff, and so it's not like Apple couldn't, it's like that couldn't be done. But we'll see. I do really doubt that there'll be a Mac Pro. I gotta assume that is going to be the very last item on their transition thing.
Next year.
Sure.
No sooner than a year from now.
Yeah.
But I think getting a heavier laptop, I think it's something you won't want once you get it. I think having a really light, thin 16-inch MacBook Pro would be great.
Well, I had a 17-inch for 5 years,
so did I, and that thing was a monster. My back still hurts.
I would have bought another one, but they stopped making it.
But I think,
Jim, I'm with you. And we need to move on from this topic, but I'm with you on the 17-inch. The only thing that saved it was the fact that the 15-inch got an improved resolution. Jim is drinking invisible water.
that's the weirdest thing.
Yes, Brittany. Yeah, I'll give you the last word on this.
I think it would be really fun to live in this world where when it says MacBook Pro, that's what it means and it has all the features. And I know it's been a while, when they say MacBook Air, that's the one that's thin and light.
Good point.
Well, I would love to see another 12-inch.
So you're the one.
No, everybody loved that thing.
All right.
If you look
on
at
that note, we're moving on.
Has them right now, by the way. If you wanted to get one from 2016, I'm almost tempted. Go ahead.
All right. Patrice, you threw in an article into our Slack that you wanted to talk about, and I'm going to let you talk about it because I'm kind of curious as to why you think this was so interesting.
If I could remember what I put in, the Google Apps thing.
Yes. Yeah, I'll throw it into the chat while you're talking.
So I found it interesting. I mean, Google has been one of those companies that, like, all their iOS apps were kind of very, 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 very late to anything Apple introduced. Like, it took them forever to introduce dark mode or multi-window support on your iPad, or like all of those nice features that iOS has. Google took forever to get them, and the reason for that was usually that they have so much custom code, because like it's basically Android on iOS. Like, if you look at Google apps, they look like Android apps with material and everything, but they run on iOS. And Google apparently at some point earlier this year or last year decided to switch and to not do that anymore, and to not waste time on fighting the iOS like system and trying to implement their own stuff and just be more iOS like. And that is, I mean, given how big Google is and like big companies tend to do stuff like that, very interesting. like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it just me who has a problem with Google Apps on iOS, or is that like a general thing?
No, not you. In fact, one of the most validating moments was when I looked at a Google Calendar app on my friend's Android, and I was like, "Oh, good. It sucks for you too." Well, the thing that was sucking in particular is you can't add a calendar on the mobile app. Like I have to go to the desktop browser to like
Wow.
alter my calendars at all. And
Mhm.
anyway, yeah, no, they've been awful. When they introduce a new feature, you just have to know, well, I can't use this for a long time, a year or two sometimes for some of the new features. This is if I don't use a lot of Google apps, and partly it's because I find them annoying. And so I've found ways not to, but when it's shared, that's your choice. Like that's the option. And I'm not willing to be hopeful yet, but I'm hoping I can hope.
This kind of ties into a discussion that we had a few weeks ago, I think, because this is kind of the opposite of all the companies that are moving to Electron.
Mm-hmm.
So, Google is moving away from a cross-platform development and saying, no, we're going to do native development on Android and native development on iOS. And yeah, I think this is a very interesting story.
Well, I was going to say Patrice may in fact be the only person who has a problem with Google Apps on iOS because I don't use them. They
I
drive
do,
me up
and
a wall, and every once in a while I try and then I fail and then I get mad and then I rage quit and delete everything and then go back to, whatever I was using as the alternative instead. So like I don't have a Gmail app on my phone. I have a mail app that checks my Gmail address, but it is not the one from Google. And I actively don't use them because every time I do, it's just really frustrating. And so I've more or less stopped. And so like, yeah, that was going to be my zippy reply was, of course not, because
Okay,
I
so
do use Maps and Mail, and I don't have a big problem with them. So
yeah, I'm that's about and Chrome occasionally. So
no, I
so
never use Chrome.
Kelly and
I
Patrice,
use
what?
there's a widget that I like, the Google search widget. I use that a lot.
But Kelly and Patrice, which apps are you referring to that you just are really frustrated with and you rage delete them?
Maps and I have a contentious relationship. I would say it's complicated, but that's the one that is the least aggravating most of the time. Most of what I find aggravating about it is not using it. It's I want your data. No. How about now? No. How about now? No. How about now? No. Okay, how about now? No.
Yes.
So like that one, and like so that I find really frustrating. Like when I open the app, that's the only time. And the rest of the time, GTFO. That's my stance. And like Google Maps seems to not be able to wrap its head around me going, no, if it's not open, no. So that one I'm frustrated with. I've tried the Gmail app, like the official Gmail app, and I find it frustrating. And the Google Office stuff, Google Docs and Google Sheets, like I've tried to use those. Even just I'm gonna open it and look at the thing. I don't have to do any editing. I don't have to actually do anything in this document that got shared with me. I was just going to peek at it on my phone real quick or peek at it on my iPad real quick and take a look at, show notes for something, or somebody shared a document with me and I just need to take a look at it. And I find them endlessly frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's like the office stuff, especially. I mean, our company uses still a lot of, I mean, we're moving away from it, but we're still using a lot of like Google Docs and Google Sheets and so on. And like I open them sometimes on my iPad and it's frustrating. I mean, it's like, it doesn't fit, it doesn't work right. Like sometimes it's like it behaves really weird.
Is that
And
going to be something that using iOS APIs is going to fix, or is it just suck?
I think so, because I mean, if you look at Excel, for example, which is, I mean, pretty decent on an iPad,
Right,
Mhm.
but
And
that
that
could be
uses a
that-
lot of and that uses a lot of iOS stuff. Like it's like the behavior of the system doesn't really fit in. That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't use Google Docs on any platform, so I don't really know, and it's partly why I'm asking. But I do hear a lot of negative stuff about it on any platform. So, I mean, just because something has iOS APIs doesn't mean it's going to be good necessarily. It could still suck.
It is really good in
fair.
a browser on macOS. Like that, it works
Okay.
really well there. So
At least
like,
at least in the browser it's the same experience for everybody. Like if
Right.
you're on a Chromebook and using Google Docs in a browser, if you're on a Windows machine and using Google Docs in a browser, if you're on a Mac and using Google Docs in a browser, it's sort of the same for everybody. The thing that's annoying about it is annoying to me across all platforms, so yay.
yes.
But and because it's something to do with keyboard commands. Like I can't
Mhm.
right click and copy paste or something. I have to use the keyboard. I don't remember what it was, but there's some dumb thing that like I can't seem to teach myself. But that's the one that, but at least like it's consistent across all browsers, more or less. And so like if if you're using it in a browser, it's going to basically look the same, and any hurdle you have with it isn't going to be anything to do with the operating system wrapped around that browser. It's just this is what Google Docs is and does, and there you go.
I would have thought it would have been pretty browser implemented on iOS and every other platform anyway. I mean, it doesn't run in a WK web view, or do you know? It's actually
No, it's
they actually have native.
Mhm.
Like all
Yeah.
the things are native. That's kind of
Yeah.
amazing.
And export them.
Yeah. Oh, David, you're awake.
No, I'm sorry. I'm there.
That's good.
Just listening.
So
Okay.
before we leave this topic, Webb in the chat room says, "Where's Jay Miller when we need him?" Regarding Google Docs.
It's true.
He
I
said he
don't
wasn't
think-
going to be here, didn't he?
Yeah, he
No.
said he wasn't going to be here, and I don't think we need him in this discussion. We have enough trouble with him in the reasonable discussions.
But
So,
his eye is twitching right now, and he's not sure why. So I'll have to
Yeah.
text
Yeah.
him later and
Yeah,
clue him in.
ex-
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm with
exactly.
him on Google Docs. So
Oh.
if he's a guest, I'm with him on that one. It's not fun.
I didn't
My
say it was
big problem with
great. I
Google
said it
is-
was consistent across all the
Yeah.
browsers.
Yes.
I didn't say it was a great
Yeah.
experience. I just said it was the same.
Mhm.
That's different,
Right.
and that's an important distinction.
Absolutely. So I wanted to get a little bit into Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We've
Yes, hello.
inevitably when we bring this topic up, we tend to focus a bit on passwords, and so I want to kind of skip over that just a little bit, and talk about some of the other things that you can or should be doing. And one of the things I was curious with this group is to find out who's running what antivirus software on their Macs, if any, and why do you feel that it's a good idea at this point? So let's see, where haven't we started? Brittany, I'll pull you right out of the middle. Are you running any antivirus?
Not on my computer, but on a beloved relative who is well-meaning and susceptible. I run it on hers.
Okay.
Which one?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
You
the
know?
one that everyone recommended that if you say the name, I can say yes, but it's not coming to me right now. That one.
Sophos.
He said,
Okay.
Sophos. It's always Sophos. No.
Sophos. Okay.
No,
No.
No.
not that one.
Well,
Anyway,
we'll see if we come up with the name here.
Yeah.
Warren, how about you? Are you running anything?
No, definitely not antivirus. No antivirus on the Mac. And I've been supporting people with Macs for a while. And anytime anybody's run into an issue with trying to get somewhere that they're trying to get to, either on the internet or through something, it's always the antivirus doing something that it shouldn't be doing, which is blocking something. So I've never used it. I tell people that that I don't use it. If you run in a mixed environment, between Windows and Macs, I have, and the only times I've ran hundreds and hundreds of antivirus runs on different computers. The only time I ever found anything was maybe like something in like a mail message from like 2001 or something like that. It's real. I've honestly never found any reason to do it. I've never seen, I've seen plenty of adware and browser hacks on the Mac, and I've seen that. The worst things I've ever seen on a Mac is nothing to do with antivirus. It's a profile. It's a profile install from somewhere, and installs a profile that takes over some of the things. And if you don't know where to look, that could drive you crazy because you don't know why it's doing the things that it's doing on that. But yeah, in the chat room, somebody said malware bytes. I will definitely run that for the adware, which is usually what I'll find. Detect X is a free one as well. That's kind of a run at one scanner, pretty much. Malwarebytes will try to get you to pay for it, but you can, do a free run and uninstall it when you're done. But yeah, I mean, I've never, I personally have never seen an actual real virus on a Mac in my and I haven't been doing this as long as some of you as far as Macs go. And I understand that before Mac OS 10, there was some issues, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any ransomware on a Mac. I haven't seen any self-propagating virus on a Mac that basically will travel to another destination without you doing anything. And the only time anybody really catches anything is, if it asks for your admin password, you put it in, then you don't even cache something. It's going to be something on their browser that's hacked.
In the chat room, Webb says he's running Sophos, otherwise known as Sophia, thanks to autocorrect.
Like Sophia.
I run Sophia too.
Yeah. Patrice, how about you?
Does clean my Mac X count? Because then I'm running that every now and then. I mean, it has a malware
It has a
detection,
malware checker.
so
Never finds
Yeah.
anything.
so never
Yeah.
finds anything, and I'm not
Yeah.
expecting it to. No, I mean, honestly, I've evaluated it like on and off for years, like just to see if it was worth it. I've never found it to be any good, and like it usually was worse for the system than the benefit it brought. And the reason for that is that, I mean, and that's true for most for most antivirus systems. They only detect what is known. So anything that is new, it will not detect. And if you're hit by that, then you're out of luck. And Apple has a pretty good system in place to block known things.
Mm-hmm.
So I simply don't see a reason for it. And that's a endless discussion with IT departments. Do we need antivirus on a Mac or not? But I stand firmly that at least as of today, I don't see why you would need one.
Okay. David, since Patrice brought up IT department, we look to you right away.
Yeah. Well, think of it this way: IT departments, enterprise, any companies, they have to follow the compliance of info security. I mean, you have to run virus scan software on a machine that's on an enterprise network. There's just no ways around it. And unfortunately, it's can be a problem too. You still got products like McAfee out there that are still being run, and they're running on Macs, and it's god awful horrible. I mean, it slows the machine down, it causes problems. I mean, but you have to understand in that area, you have to be running something just
Mm-hmm.
as a I mean, for audit purposes. Companies
Mm-hmm.
audit themselves. If you aren't protecting your systems, then shame on you. You have to have some sort of product. ESET's another one. McAfee's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of them, and there's many others. Personally, I don't run any virus software on my machine at all. I would go in Patrice's place and use Clean My Mac X. I've used many times, especially because it's part of SetApp, and I have run that a few times just to see where the malware is. But then I've helped people before, and someone called me the other day with getting that message that says you have to call this number right away because you have malware and you have all this crap on your computer, and it was blaring in the background when they called me. I'm like, do not call that number. Whatever you do.
And then push it again.
Yes, push the
That's how
power
you
button
clean,
down.
That's how you clean that virus off.
Yes. And power back up. And I says, if it happens again, let me know. But yeah, Malwarebytes, as Brittany says, you're running it on your family's machines. Yeah, that's a decent product. I know I think they do have a free version you can run. It may not clean everything, but there's no need for it to purchase it. But
Of
overall,
Malwarebytes?
I thought there was. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, Malwarebytes has a free version, but you can't schedule it automatically. Like you have to open
Right.
it and run the scan
Right.
and let it run and
For-
sit and do it yourself and wait. It
Right.
doesn't just automate. That's what you pay
for
for.
Windows, the Mac version, just to clarify, the Mac version does pressure you to buy it even for the on-demand scan.
Yeah, oh, they do. Yeah.
So
even-
you could just uninstall it if you don't.
And
like it.
I was even going to mention Microsoft does have a Windows, a Mac product that they're using for the enterprise too. For their Defender product that's on Windows. So there are tools out there in the enterprise, but at home, I just, other than maybe your occasional browser hijack that might happen, and that's relatively easy to clean. And I agree with Warren. There just really hasn't been any major viruses in the wild on a Mac in quite a long time.
Wow. So Microsoft, you were talking about an antivirus, not a virus creation software.
No, antivirus. Yeah, no. Microsoft has an antivirus. Their Windows Defender. They also have a Mac Defender type product. I can't remember the name of it, but
sometimes you could say that the Microsoft product itself is the virus, but
Depends on the product, but yes.
I will say Windows 10 and Defender.
Right.
Is
in Windows, it's built in. You don't need. I mean, these products. That's why these companies have moved on to other things.
It's got a lot better since Windows 7.
100%.
Yeah.
Windows gets the same kind of adware and browser hijacks too, but I haven't. They're getting better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Sometimes it feels like they're selling arms to both sides. That's just, I can't help it. Jim, how about you? Are you in the camp of not needing it?
I've never run any antivirus software ever.
Okay, well, that's pretty definitive. Kelly, I think you're
except when I had a Windows machine for a while.
Yeah. Kelly, you're the last one. And then I'll get into the chat room and me too. But what do you don't bother?
I do run Malwarebytes on the regular. I have spent time with other ones as part of the day job because I'm in IT as well. And most of the support that I do is for Macs. And so it's mostly making sure the weird phone calls that say, you have a problem with your machine and we can help you fix it. Don't get any further. Like the profitable attack vectors now on Mac OS are not viruses. It's phishing, which doesn't have anything to do with your computer necessarily, or the phone calls, to tell you about the trouble with your machine. And, you need, I'm from tech support and you need help, and let's just get your Visa number to get things underway. And like, that's the far more profitable way for people to give you a hard time with your technology. It's not like the one I always think of is I used to get this email from somebody every once in a while that would say, congratulations, you just got a Mac virus. Go delete a bunch of random files from your hard drive and then forward this message to everyone in your address book.
Yeah, that's a manual virus.
Yeah, I used to get that about every 6 months. It would make a lap and somebody would go, oh, Kelly, you'll get a kick out of this. Like, I've never seen it before because I didn't get an email address in 1993. So I've seen them. I've seen that one a bunch. I've run things that I've dabbled in at work are Bitdefender, mostly Malwarebytes. We spend a lot of time with Malwarebytes. Bitdefender, because Bitdefender has other products as well. I think they're the ones that have a VPN solution as well that you can use. So I've seen it and I have experience with it. Avast is another one that is still around. Climax AV is still around as a utility that you can run on your Mac. But mostly like for day-to-day things, I will generally go download something specific, run it, see what I get, and then leave. But mostly it's the malware is the thing to worry about more than like actual virus stuff.
Right.
Like the last time I remember being legitimately concerned about a virus was there was like the QuickTime auto start worm that came out on a Mac Addict CD, which was attached to Mac Addict magazine. because I just couldn't resist making this reference any more dated. But I think that was the last time I remember there being like an actual virus thing that you had to actually worry about. And it was more an annoying thing than something bad was going to happen on your computer. So, and that was like
So-
System 7, Mac OS 8, like,
There was one recent one that was attached to,
I mean-
was it Handbrake or something? Oh, God.
Yeah,
It was something
it
like
was.
real
Yeah,
common.
yeah,
oh,
Handbrake
yeah,
had a-
yeah.
Handbrake had
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I mean, most like everybody's saying, most of the things you read in like online that say something about a Mac virus, it's always the same thing. Researchers, security researchers have identified a vulnerability in blah blah blah,
Yep.
and to me, that's just like, you know what? Security researchers could find a vulnerability in anything, and
That's true.
doesn't mean it's dangerous. It doesn't mean it's common. It doesn't mean it's coming to you in the wild. So, and that's what Apple does. They listen to those people, and they're so quick to fix it. And they, usually it's even behind the scenes with the gatekeeper. You don't even know they fixed it, but they do.
Right.
I mean, everyone's using antivirus software, whether they know it or not, for their computers, and that's the Mac App Store.
True.
Yeah, that's
It's
a good point.
gatekeeper too.
I mean, Gatekeeper's going to say,
Yeah.
if it sees an app to say, hey, this is not a trusted app, and it blocks it. So it makes the user think twice before installing it. But, it's very easy to bypass that just by going in security and updates and saying, oh, open anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
or
but you said
or
it
by
well, Dave.
signing your malware.
Right. But you
Right.
said it well, David. It makes you think twice. And at
Right.
some point, that's about all we can ask for things to do. I guess I'm the paranoid one of the bunch because I run both Malwarebytes and MacScan. And I have to say, first of all, I like the fact that I'm paying for both of them because both of them therefore are regularly updated. And that
True.
seems to be one of the problems with the free things. They're hot for a little while and then somebody loses interest or they don't pay attention. And then if anything does get through, bang. I respect what Patrice said, but with these to be as far as previous malware utilities always seem to cause more problems than they were worth. But these two, they just sit there, they do their thing. I don't even know they're running. I have found that I have received viruses in email attachments and everything, but guess what? They're Windows viruses.
Mhm.
So at least I can't pass them on, which is not a bad thing, especially if you are doing any kind of business work on your laptop. Which sort of leads me to catch up with the chat room. Rich says maybe for companies with BYOD. David Webb asked for comments on is it NIST or NIST security framework?
Yes,
and
NIST.
Oh yeah, NIST.
Yeah, and he says this may be a little deep into how the sausage is made. Brian says I use McAfee provided by my ISP. Plus, I take precautions on where I download software. Needs to be a very trusted company. Otherwise, just all off the Mac App Store. Good for you, Brian. Oh yeah, that's Kelly McAfee provided. It's a good gig.
Yeah.
And Brian says, yeah, it seems not to work well since updating to Big Sur. And I mean, where
That's
does McAfee?
disappointing.
Where does McAfee stand now? Is it being actively developed?
Yeah, because we're still using it. I mean, but I think CrowdStrike by Falcon is becoming a big product that's coming out. And I think a lot more companies are looking at that. I think we're looking at it because McAfee's become quite a bit of bloatware. And I made the comment in the chat there, the McAfee support for enterprise has been just getting worse and worse.
It has.
I don't know where they're going. They were owned by Intel at one point, and I think Intel's, I don't know if they spun them off or where they're at that point, but it's hard to say.
It's gone downhill since John McAfee killed himself or was
Yeah,
or whatever.
Who hasn't had any dealings with that product in a long time. I will make a comment for Web and relates to the NIST cybersecurity framework. It's intense. I've spent time where I have had to go through page and Kelly can attest to it too. Oh my God, hundreds and hundreds of pages of information and specifics on every little note. When I went through that exercise and Kelly's shaking her head too, it's just it just makes your mind explode. There's just so much information that you have to know about, and trying to secure things in a way that has to have following those guidelines is number one for an enterprise.
Mm-hmm. And that's totally unrelated to like SOC 2 and other sorts of things that people have to come up against. It's like, it's so overwhelming. And I think we've mentioned here before, like cybersecurity insurance as well. Like, if you are a business and applying for business insurance, one of the options that you have is like cybersecurity insurance. Like, what happens if your company gets ransomware and you get locked, maybe you get locked out of stuff or whatever. Those are things that you also have to worry about. And there's a whole wave of questions that go along with that can a lot of times catch people flat-footed. Even just on a basic level, because they're very specific.
Hey, I'm going to interrupt just a second. Warren has to run. Warren, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you. Continue to feel better, please.
Thanks. And next Tuesday is going to be good. I'm
Okay.
feeling like something's happening. So
where
we'll see how it goes.
Where can folks find you if they want to contact you between now and then?
I'll be at the Apple Store probably Tuesday. So that's where you can find me.
Not what I meant, Warren. Okay, well.
Back to the Future. That's where he is.
It'll be in the show notes, folks. What can I tell you? He missed his cue completely.
I guess he really
His wife was calling him.
Yeah. And when your wife calls, you answer the phone.
You answer.
So some other things I had on the list, and I'm just going to throw them out there and see how. Well, something's Kelly you were saying, and I wanted to bring this up too. Because I know that there are some cyber insurance companies, cyber insurance policies that require you to implement two-factor authentication, right? And why you wouldn't implement two-factor authentication just means you are absolutely lazy and you don't care and you deserve whatever you get. I'm sorry, but it's just.
I think you mean you're bad and you should feel bad. I think that's where you're headed with that.
And you're bad and you're negligent is where I was headed with Kelly.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, there are some services like Office 365, for example, where it's these days really easy to do two-factor. But there are a lot of services out there where like it's not even an option at all. Or it doesn't work as well. I mean, start with your WordPress sites. Like that's like one of the things I'm trying to secure, and like it's a pain.
Well, I think Chuck, that's what you're saying. Like take the opportunity when it's afforded you. Like Not everything has two-factor, and not everything even has the capability for it. But for the things that do, it's getting easier all the time to implement those things. iOS 15's iCloud Keychain now has a way to manage time-based one-time passwords. So if you are getting a text message sent to you with that 6-digit number in it, you don't even have to do that anymore. You can let iCloud Keychain manage that for you. There's, a thing that I like to tell people a lot, Chuck, if we're going to talk about it, a thing that I like to tell people that we remind people about on Security Friday over at TDO as well is you can use most of the time you can use any authenticator app you want, and you can put more than one account in that authenticator. So if you have Google Authenticator installed and set up for your Google stuff, you can use it for your Microsoft stuff too. And if you have Microsoft Authenticator, you can set it up for Google, you can set it up for Facebook, you can set up Authy and use Authy to manage all of those two-factor authentication situations for you. There's a lot of easy ways to do it. I know 1Password has it built in. I think either LastPass or Bitwarden has it built in as well, that you can use it to automatically
as well.
Secrets has it. There are a whole lot of ways to make two-factor stuff available. And when you don't have the opportunity for two-factor, that's your chance to stop and think about, is this a service I need to continue to use? Like if it's personal stuff, am I giving my credit card to somebody that doesn't even have two-factor against my account? Like, what are they doing with my information otherwise? That kind of thing. Or find alternatives and let them know, like, I'm done with you. I know more than one person who has switched banks because they're like, having a 6-character password is shenanigans. You're not keeping my data safe with 6-character maximums on passwords. That's not a thing. So, so I'm moving to a place that takes my security, that takes protecting my data seriously. And financial data is nothing to screw with. So yeah, that's absolutely that sounds completely reasonable to me. If you're using bank software that says, and you give it a 7-character password and it goes, nope, maybe think twice about banking with them. And I think there's a whole lot of there's feedback that goes into that as well. Go tell them I'm moving because your security people couldn't defend their way out of a wet paper sack. No thanks. So, there's like you said, Chuck, there's no excuse for it in a lot of cases. And it's also just sort of a thing you kind of have to review for yourself. Everything from Facebook has a 2-factor option. So, if you're like, oh, what do I do about my Instagram account? They have 2-factor. I know they do because I use it. For the few times I go
Twitter.
It totally works.
But there are some examples where it just doesn't work. I haven't tried PayPal recently, but as of I want to say a year ago, PayPal's 2-factor system was like crap. It did not, half of the time it didn't work at all.
Yeah, so. I barely use PayPal through their app or anything, so I haven't had it. I haven't had it work for me very well at all either.
Kelly, you just brought up Facebook, and we don't want to beat on Facebook, okay? But I just got I got a message, from a friend, that just made one of those this doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Why is she asking me that? And then I saw her post in her feed, I've been hacked. Don't respond to any messages. And it's I so badly wanted to be, that guy and say, did you have 2-factor authentication turned on? Or was your password 1234? Because if it was, then you've put me in danger and, you should be taken out behind the woodshed. I mean, that just doesn't, that just doesn't make, yes, I'm a big believer in corporal punishment, preferably with a crowbar.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, well, it does because, unfortunately, what we're talking about
I get it.
We're talking about my security and your security and, the security of everybody around you, not just your personal security that you're compromising. Compromise away if you want, but don't mess with mine by doing stupid things.
Yeah. I can, all the people who, and I think this is still a thing, Facebook really wants you to sync all the contacts in your phone to Facebook. Yes. And so, so possibly a bunch of people have my phone number in their phones, and and if they get hacked now, somebody has my phone number, and whatever other information about me, if I gave them my birthday, there's another one, my physical my mailing address, there's another one. And if you get compromised, you have all of those, all of that data, which is sort of not yours to share, is now compromised. And, and that's my data. So Chuck, I agree with you. I was sort of making a joke about it because you went straight to crowbar. That's all. But it's serious and it's important. And it's a thing that I think doesn't always get considered. And, when I talk to people about security, the example I always use about having unique passwords is LinkedIn. If somebody gets my LinkedIn password, because this was before they got hacked again, if somebody gets my LinkedIn password, they can log in and update my resume. Oh no, but if I'm using the same password on LinkedIn, that I'm using on Amazon, now you have my credit card, my other credit card, my other credit card, couple of shipping addresses, names and addresses for people in my family, birthdays for people, whether, in my house or in other places, or maybe it's the same as my Apple ID. And now you have, all the data that I have stored under my Apple ID, and so that's a thing that escalates really quickly as well. And that's part of why I think the 2-factor stuff needs to be better explained. And I think it needs to be more easily utilized, and it needs to be very obvious if you are a service that offers it, that that's a thing that needs to happen, because it's important and it's easy. 2-factor is one of the easiest things that you can do to lock everything down, make it more secure, make it something easier. YubiKey has now biometric. It's basically like a Touch ID hardware key. So you stick your thumb on it and you poke it in the side of your computer and you're done. And they have them that work with your phone, with a lightning port, to make sure that to make sure that the thing, that it's as easy as possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Like when people were concerned about being in offices, like, that sort of stuff, like you can keep people from shoulder surfing by using Touch ID, that kind of thing. Like that's part of where I like that Apple has sort of pushed towards some of these things more easily. Like you kind of have to have two-factor on your Apple ID now and stuff like that. It's important and it's easy.
And I think that's something where like, I think a lot of stuff is still, or a lot of like regulations are probably still missing. I can tell you I think in Germany, probably in the rest of Europe as well, no bank is allowed to not have two-factor authentication as a default, like enabled as a default as of last year. They have to have it.
Nice.
And I mean, it totally makes sense. Like it was an option before, like optional, a lot of banks did it, but it wasn't mandatory. And I think in like banks and any like Amazon, honestly, anything that is high risk, that should be the default. It's on by default. There is no other way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who, but someone just put in our private chat, but it makes it so much more annoying to log into someone's Pokemon account to catch Larvitar or whatever for them. Now, I'm not going to say who that was, but I'll let you draw your own conclusions.
I'm going to point out it was not the person who has Pokemon in their background. I'm just going to say that and leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll leave that alone. I guess the bottom line is if you lock your door at night, then there are some of these things you should be taking seriously. And two-factor authentication, the passwords, I mean, we beat the passwords to death, but for heaven's sake, folks, please go and use a password manager. We don't care which one, but and do not reuse passwords. That's another big one. I personally, I don't like, I do it on a couple sites, but I don't like to leave my credit card numbers with vendors. I just don't think that's a good practice. I use VPNs regularly anytime I'm out in any Wi-Fi that I don't know, and sometimes Wi-Fi that I do know, because it's not costing me anything. Just hit the little button, let it secure you, and keep on going.
Yeah.
The virus software we talked about a lot. That may be a matter of personal taste and what systems you're running. What am I missing, guys? For heaven's sake, like David said, don't answer those phone calls. Don't answer those flashing messages. Don't believe if the website tells you that you've been hacked. And and I think, was it Kelly? You said let me give you the Visa number to get started, because all that's going to do is just get worse. By the moment.
Also, don't answer like social engineering questions on Facebook. Like those questions, like what is the city you were born in? Stuff like that.
Or answer them but wrong and save it in your password manager. Because this is the thing that I think, like, this is the thing that because I give talks about security regularly at my day job to people, like, we're rolling out a password manager. Here's why that matters. Here's what, here's like what you need to know about why this is a big deal. Or two-factor, if I'm helping people implement two-factor across the organization. And one of the things I tell people all the time is no one's going to call you and check.
No,
like no one's going to
totally lie.
Like once I fill out the whole form for the account, like 20 minutes later, my phone's not going to ring and be like, hello. And then go, yeah, Kelly, we know that the city you were born in was not poster desktop pencil case, so you need to give us the right answer. Like, no. They don't care. The whole reason that all started was because, like, the name of your second grade teacher is never going to change, and so asking you for the name of your second grade teacher is going to always give you the answer, and they're sort of banking on the fact that no one else is going to know who your second grade teacher was. But that was in the days before you could continually have conversations with your second grade teacher on the book base. So there's a thing like that sort of security measure was a thing that was good way before everybody was free and breezy with putting all their information out on social media and on their websites and things like that. So like, they're not going to check, like, and the thing is, like, it sometimes is sort of entertaining when that happens, because I have a question like that on my insurance. There's like a security question. So whenever I call them, they have to ask me for the answer. And so I give them the answer, which is words, and I give them like poster desktop pencil case 6, and it's some question like, who was your second grade teacher? And I give them that. And then they're like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, I work in security. And they're like, oh. And like one person said, I never thought about doing that. And I'm like, nobody checks. And they were like, oh my God, I totally didn't like that. That thought never occurred to me. Like, of course you're just going to give the right answer to a question like that about yourself. So don't, and know that nobody's going to verify that.
No.
Yeah.
You can lie. You can generate another password for that. Field,
Anything I said for my second grade teacher I have no idea who that was.
Same.
Chuck, I want to back up on something you said for a second. If I heard it right, did you say that if you're like out using Wi-Fi somewhere and you're going to use your credit card, then you want to go through a VPN?
I don't, not necessarily for my credit card. I try to avoid that, but just regular surfing or email or whatever, I want to go through a VPN.
Same.
Why did you specify credit card, Jim?
I thought that's what you said, but I guess I misheard. Because, if a site is using SSL, as they better be if you're doing that, then it's already encrypted. So it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, yes and no. There's still a possibility of a man-in-the-middle attack. Like I could set that up myself. Like it's fairly easy, depending on the bank and the website.
Then you could go in and check the certificate on your browser, and
but who does that?
Yeah, or you can
that would be better. I think that would be a better protection than using a VPN.
There's also, these days, like privacy.com virtual credit cards that you can basically use one time. Like for one site, you can even set the amount that site can charge you for and stuff like that.
What really gives me the heebie-jeebies on credit cards is giving them to a waiter at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why the pay at the table things, I actually like them for that reason.
But I've never seen
standard
that
here. So.
I was going to say Patrice might not even know about giving.
No, I do.
Giving it to, because that's kind of an American thing, I think.
Yeah, I can tell you a funny story about that. I was in Hawaii at a small restaurant, and I was using my, I think at that point, German credit card, and it asked for a PIN, and they didn't even know. The terminal was somewhere behind the counter, and I had to go there, and they weren't set up for that at all. They didn't at first know what to do.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say Andrew isn't here, and so I feel compelled to point out privacy.com gives you these disposable numbers that you can spin up, so you can have Chuck, you could have a credit card dedicated just to Amazon, and then a different credit card number just for iTunes, and then all the different places, and you can put limits on them. So this card can never charge more than $20, for the iTunes store or whatever, and things like that. And so, and then they're disposable, and you can turn them off. And that makes them very easy to use as well. And I know Andrew really likes privacy.com. So I was going to say he's not here, so I feel like we have to.
You can have one for Netflix, for example, and it can exactly charge whatever Netflix charges and not a cent more.
Yeah. So if somebody hacks into your Netflix account and gets your payment information, that's on them. The most they're ever going to get away with is $8 or whatever.
Yeah. And this is not exactly cybersecurity, but you brought it up, Kelly, and so I just cannot resist. Please do not use a debit card for anything other than withdrawing cash.
Amen to that.
Preach.
Please, because all you're doing is you're opening up your entire bank balance to be hacked. And at least if you have a credit card especially from a major bank, you've got the backing of that bank, you've got their policies that will protect you, and usually if you have liability, your liability is very limited. Brittany, I see you raising a finger.
What about if you use your debit card with Apple Pay?
I still don't like to use my debit card for anything other than going into an ATM that I've grabbed the front of and tried to pull off.
Chuck, I don't even have a debit card that I know where it is or what the PIN is. I don't have one. I've not convinced my life partner to get a credit card, however.
Well,
I will say if there's Apple Pay, you're using the Apple Pay.
I will talk to your heterosexual life mate after the show.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for revealing Brittany's never.
So on.
David.
Patrice,
did you? I
is
thought,
that advice that Chuck gave? Does that also apply where you are? I had a conversation on Twitter recently about this, and I was saying exactly what Chuck just said. And then this person was in another country, and they said, actually, that's not true here. It's better to use a debit card. And there's, the protections are actually different in different countries for debit cards versus credit cards.
So the credit card that exists in the US does not technically exist in a lot of other places. Like here in Europe, most what people call credit cards here are actually just debit cards. They have a credit card number just like in the US, but they're really just debit cards. There are a few banks that do like proper debit cards, like how they are in the US, but it's rare. So the protections here are different, yes. But yeah, it just doesn't exist. Like when I use my credit card in air quotes, it goes to my bank account directly.
So if you don't live in the US, if you're a listener not in the US, check your local region.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think it doesn't matter whether I think that the point is more check what you're doing and make sure that the proper protections are in place, whatever it is called. It doesn't matter what it's called.
Right.
It's about the protections.
Right. But there, I know there are a lot of people in the United States that just use debit cards everywhere, and I always tell them stop doing that, and they usually don't believe me.
But well, and it's awareness, because there's a lot less protection.
Right.
If somebody gets a hold of your debit card number and goes and spends money on it, there's a lot less that you can do in that case, because it's sort of like with your credit card, it's sort of theoretical until the actual charge gets processed. And that means that your Chase Manhattan or your Goldman Sachs or whoever, Capital One, whoever, like they have the opportunity to go, okay, that was fraud. Right. And, make that, they can yeet that back right out into the ocean. And, that's not, and it's not your problem anymore.
Right.
And when it's your bank account, that's a completely different set of circumstances that you have to worry about in most places. And the laws that govern it are different. And it's handy to have that debit card because you can swipe at any place that'll take something with a mag stripe and a 16-digit number. But the outcome of that is a very, very different situation dependent, if somebody nefarious gets a hold of it. So that's the part that's hard to, that sometimes can be hard to track.
And on the Apple Card, for example, the magnetic stripe is actually disabled by default. You have to enable it if you want to use it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
And Chuck, I would say for the ATM, not only would I want to check, that the thing hasn't got a fake front on it, but, I wouldn't use one that wasn't part of a bank building, and preferably inside the building if possible.
Yeah, those third-party ATMs avoid.
Yeah, but even bank ATMs, that, people have been known to put false fronts on them, even though they're attached to the bank building. Yeah. And that's a huge. I went to a conference talk about it once, and I was amazed. It's like tens of billions of dollars of fraud, ATM fraud every year. Humongous.
And what's great about my bank is I put if I do, like you said, putting your debit card in Apple Wallet, I can go up to the ATM, put my Apple Watch up, and it scans everything. I'm not even putting my card in to take that chance.
And in this case, like Apple Pay is better because it's using a transaction number. So even if someone got that number, they couldn't do much with it.
Right. And that's the part I think, we're talking about like information and being informed. That's where Security Friday came from. And that's the thing I think sometimes doesn't get described clearly. And that is like the credit card number in your Apple Wallet for any of your credit cards is not the number that's on the piece of plastic in your wallet, in your actual wallet. They are not the same number. And if somebody were to get that number that's in the credit card on your credit card, air quotes, on your phone, again, air quotes, like in that wallet, like that number isn't even going to work for anything because it takes the number and an authentication token because, your watch got unlocked by you at some point, or you paid with your passcode or your Face ID or something if you bonk your phone on the thing. And there's another piece of the token, which is like the date and timestamp and the amount that was paid and like where you are and all of that. And if somebody were to get the number that goes to that transaction, it's not going to do them any good.
There's also a device. There's also a hardware device token.
Yeah.
So you couldn't even take it. You couldn't even take it to another phone.
Not to mention that contactless payment only works within about 4 inches of the terminal. So if somebody's trying to get in between you and the terminal to sniff that credit card number, you're probably going to notice. And so like that too, you know, like there's so much stuff that goes into making that number secure. Like it actually, to me, feels way safer to do that than to take out the card that has the number on it and my signature and the CVV and wave that around as I'm trying to feed it to the terminal or whatever. Like, this, you know, I take my arm and I go boop and it's done. And then I leave and it's fantastic. And it feels for a second like I live in the future. And that part is what makes it awesome. And so like I tell people all the time and they go, oh, I don't want to carry my credit card around on my phone. I'm like, well, you're actually not. You know, it's a pretend number. And, you know, and if it makes you uncomfortable, remove it and then re-add it if you think something funny happened. And then you'll get a whole new fake number that you can use as your pretend credit card to go buy stuff other places. And, you know, and it kind of feels like you live in the future and, you know, it's great.
I wonder why Apple doesn't market on this. I wonder if the banks don't want them to or something. I mean, it seems like this could be, you know, it is a huge differentiator for Apple Pay that even, I'm not even sure if the other NFT payment systems have that. I don't think they do.
They do. No, they do. This what Apple is using is actually part of the what is it called EMF, EMT. I don't remember the standard behind it.
I want to say it's
Apple's,
EMF.
Yeah, I think EMF. It's part of the standard. So those transaction numbers are
so
part of the standard.
Samsung Pay does the same thing.
Yep.
Samsung Pay does the same thing. Google Pay.
Pay is the same. Yeah,
all the
contactless payment stuff is all the same.
They don't have that.
They do not.
They do not have that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to wrap this up because we are starting to run over time. I'm going to end with just one last tip, and that is, for heaven's sake, keep your software updated, your system software, and any software that has anything to do with monetary transactions, because that is constantly being updated by most vendors one way or another, especially if there are any problems. So please do that. We want you to all be safe. We want to see you back here every Tuesday night. And that means that, you know, you have to have money to pay the bills to get the internet access to be able to be here. So it's my self-interest to protect you.
I want to tag on to that if you see that there's a security update for something and the notes for that security update, the more vague they are, the more important it is for you to update. Because if it's a tiny little thing that only happens on a Tuesday when the moon is full, then like they're going to say this fixes a security flaw where somebody can get your password on Tuesdays when the moon is full. If it's a huge security hole and somebody could drive a truck through the middle of your operating system and scoop out all your data and leave with it, they're going to say, it's a security update. It's very important that you install this. They are not going to tell you anything about it. It's not going to be anything where they nail down specifics, not at first, not till like a bunch of people install it. And then they're going to be like, it's a good thing y'all installed that because there was this giant hole somebody could have driven a truck through and scooped up all your data and ran off with it. And like, but they won't tell you about it at the time. So if you get a security update that is very, very light on details, it is very, very important you install it.
Any security update is important.
That's true. But when they're like, this fixes this, you know, the Wi-Fi blinks out on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, like that's a little different magnitude than some of the ones we've seen, particularly lately with Big Sur, you know, a couple of those.
I just don't want anybody to ignore any security updates because really it doesn't matter how big or how small it is. If it's the one that applies to you, if it's your front door that's open, it doesn't matter how many other front doors in your neighborhood are locked. Yours is the one that's open, and that's where they'll drive through.
But it's easy to blow off a vague one, and don't blow off the vague ones at all.
and that cybersecurity or penetration testing 101. Like the first thing you look for is some old software or something unpatched, because if it has a known vulnerability, you're in.
Yep. David, I'll give you the
I was
last
going to
word.
say, Rich F in the chat room just mentioned iOS 15.0.2. That's a prime example. Security update has a bug. Run it.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you. Craig in the chat room said there's been a lot of good information tonight, and I hope that's the case, because we want to make you all aware of some of this stuff. We know it's not the sexiest topic in the world, and none of this stuff is, but it's also just so extremely important. And if you are tech savvy, then and you're involved in technology, I hate to say it, but it's one more place that people can take advantage of you. So you need to be out there protecting yourself. Let's go around and find out where we can find everyone when they're not here sharing all this wisdom. And I'm going to flip it upside down this time, because I think I went from the top before. So now I'm going to let Brittany go first. Brittany, thank you for being here. You're speaking at the ADHD conference later this month?
It's at the start of November, and yes, I am.
Okay, great. So we can find you there. Where else can we find you?
Where else you can find me is on Twitter. I'm the ADD Liberator. That is also my YouTube, where I talk about technology and do live weekly reviews with all of the foibles one might expect. And my website is conquer.consulting for all the other stuff I do.
Excellent. Thanks so much for the time, Brittany. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Ms. Kelly, thank you for sharing all your wisdom. Where can folks find you?
Well, you can get more of this sort of wisdom over at the macobserver.com or at macobserver.com, where I do the Daily Observations podcast 5 days a week. And on Fridays, we do Security Friday, where we talk about stuff like this all the time. And the thing I'll point out is that the TDO, as we call it over there, the Daily Observations podcast, maximum about 22 minutes. So we do very small chunks of this stuff, but we tell you about this week in data breaches is a beloved portion of the program. We talk about the things that you need to know, and every week we try to make sure that we have an actionable tip, like the stuff that we're telling you here, to make sure that people are doing what they can to make sure that they are at least informed about what's happening with their data and how to keep it private, and making sure that you know what's going on with your stuff. So that's what we do over there at Daily Observations at macobserver.com. You can find me on the Incomparable Podcast Network, where I have a show called I Want My MCU TV. And I can also be found on other episodes over there. We will be talking about the second season of Ted Lasso on the main show over there very soon, because boy, howdy, do I have thoughts. You can find me on the After Show with Mike Rose at aftershowpodcast.com. We just released a new episode over there. And I'm sure I've done other stuff that I can't think of. I was recently a guest on In Touch with iOS with Dave somebody, I think, is the host of that. And the rest of the time you can find me on Twitter as Verso.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Patrice, I don't know when you're going to get back, because you
next month
you
probably.
engage you engage in lack of sleep to participate in this. So when you're on vacation, you're always welcome. You're always welcome anytime. But where can folks find you otherwise, so that you can actually get some sleep?
I'll be back sometime next month. I think there's a public holiday on a Wednesday at some point, so I'll join you. You can find me every week on Thursdays and Fridays on British Tech Network on the Big Show and the Mac Show. And I want to mention, since next week Monday is a new Apple event, there will be a Apple event poker on Friday on the Mac Show. So, and that's always a lot of fun, where we try to predict what's going to happen, and we're usually very, very wrong. So that's going to happen this week. Other than that, everything I'm doing, all the projects and social media links, and if you want to buy me a coffee, you can find all of that on thepatrice.com. And if you want to listen to very interesting people talking about food and just everything that goes with that, like food-related memories, I have an interview podcast called Foodie Flashback at foodieflashback.com, where I have interviewed some of you, but not all of you. So I'll send out some invites.
Great to have you, Patrice. I'm so glad you've been able to join us.
I was very happy to do it.
Jim Ray, where can folks find you?
You can find me at proview.com and also at ProView Gym on Twitter.
Perfect. Thanks for being here as always. Good to have you. Last but absolutely not least, that guy David that Kelly was trying to remember. Mr. Ginsburg, where can folks find you?
Thanks for having me, Chuck. As always, in touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. Actually, Patrice will be joining me and Jeff this week on the show. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also on the Mac show on Fridays. I did win the bingo in the last event, so I guess I have to kind of brag about that a little bit. You're also going to find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/DaveG65. And I'm on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks again.
David, it's poker, not bingo.
Did I say bingo?
You said bingo.
I meant poker. My apologies. Thank you.
Because they're such similar games.
Yeah, totally.
I can tell you're really good at it.
Yeah. Well, he won, so how you can
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. Yeah.
My bad. I
Oh.
could mesmerize.
Hey, I want to thank the chat room. Folks, thank you so much for participating, for being here. We always appreciate it. It's always great to see you. Please come back and join us next Tuesday. The topic obviously will be whatever was announced on Monday at the Big Apple event. We'll be analyzing it and digging through it and deciding what, if anything, we're going to buy. So, Mac Voices Live, Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever time that is your time. We will see you right back here on Mac Voices Live on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. As always, thanks for watching.
It said bingo.
Thank you, guys. I had to call you out on it. I couldn't leave it alone.
Now we know what you're doing on the show. Like you were actually
Yeah.
playing bingo instead of poker.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I'm picking up.
Yeah.
So that's how you won at poker, was
64.
because you decided to just play bingo instead.
Yeah.
I see. It's
The ultimate bluff.
Oh, man. Thank you, Brian. Brian says always learn so much. We appreciate you
Yay!
being here.
Thank you, Brian. That warms my heart. That's the thing that we really like about Security Friday is like we get feedback about it. And so it's so nice to know that somebody's listening, that somebody cared. And like the other reason that we do it is for people who listen to daily observations, and then they can go listen to these two talk about passwords. Like, I don't want to have this conversation with you. Just go listen to them. And then if you have questions, get back to me on it. Like, I really like that we can offer that service for people. So yeah, that's and that's another part of what we like to do with it, is just, just for information. So people have a good grip on it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we like to share all the information, this stuff just feels like it's extra important. And I thought about asking people to, go to your neighbor, go to your friend, share some of these tips. And I thought, that just doesn't work, because then you turn people into know-it-alls, and people don't like being told that they're doing things wrong. And so I don't know how you get the word out.
well,
You can
because-
never know. You can never know enough about security. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and it's not necessarily that you're doing it wrong, but maybe here's some options for how you could do it better. And
Yeah.
you could do it better and not be any more hassle than it is already. Like that sometimes is has some appeal. Like that's the nice thing about two-factor being built into iCloud Keychain. Like it's a lot, it's very easy to continue to be just even more secure with the information that you've got or whatever. So
Well, and so, and
Or-
that's the thing. That's the thing that gets me with Apple Pay on the watch or the phone. That Kelly, I've run into the same thing you have. People seem to be think it's less secure, and if anything, it's more secure.
yeah,
Because if my wallet falls out of my hip pocket, then anybody can open it and take down that credit card or use it. If my
Right.
phone falls out of my pocket, they have to first get through the password security. Then they have to get through everything else, all the other
Yep.
passwords and everything. And so
Yeah.
even if you assume that, that you're going to lose something, it's still safer to lose that than your
Yeah.
wallet.
Well, and somebody asked about why Apple doesn't advertise against this, and I think it's because it's not interesting, unless they find a creative way to turn it into something really, that's entertaining to watch. Like the transaction is boring, and credit card numbers are boring, and like security is boring. Like there's no getting around it.
they have advertised Apple Pay, but they don't go into details. Like it's more about the interaction and how you use Apple Pay and not about the stuff that's happening in the background, because that is boring and difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and they stress convenience, and that's the thing that's going to sell every time.
Exactly.
Convenience is, but
as you said in the chat, like it's convenience first and then security.
Yeah.
So I really
geeks like us care.
Well, and the only reason I care is because I was curious, because at that point there wasn't really a lot of contactless payment going around when we got Apple Pay on the 5S. So with Touch ID. So that was like the first time that you could do anything like that. And so like it was very exciting. And most like that's why I went and dug in, and I was like, I want to know how Apple made it so that I can pay for stuff with my phone, and how Apple thinks it's a good idea. That I should be able to carry my credit card around on my phone, because it sounded weird and it wasn't a thing that people did at that point. So that's why I went and dug into it, and I wrote an article at Mac Observer about it, because this was hot on the heels of I went through like 4 credit cards in a year, because like every time I turned around, I got a new letter that said like, we're mailing you a new card because of fraud. And I'm like, wonderful. So it was really frustrating. Your card was caught in a data breach. We're sending you a new card. Thanks, because I set everything up for Apple Pay, and
I had the same experience. But I don't think it had any. I think all the breaches were not. It was part of big breaches,
right? But it didn't have anything to do with me. Like that was the reason I was frustrated. Like it wasn't I did something dumb with my card. I didn't, it wasn't me dropping it in the middle of the grocery store and somebody picked it up and memorized the number and then gave it back to me. Like it wasn't anything on my part. Like I sit down and cut them all in tiny little pieces when I get a new one. And like, I do all the stuff that I'm supposed to do. And still I'm getting like a new credit card quarterly. Like it just was really, really frustrating.
Yeah,
I remember that year. Yeah.
You got to go notify every.
Right. And then I have to go through everything that I have set up for automatic payment, and I have to go update those, and then I have to panic next month when the one that I skipped didn't get updated, and so now they're like, you have a late fee because your card doesn't work anymore, like on like there's all kinds of stuff you can do in the aftermath, but like it sucked. And it was it was a giant pain in the neck to have to do that. And so that was part of why I was so interested when Apple said that this was a thing that they were going to do, because I was like more of the security of it is on me to do. And so like as long as I'm doing the part that I need to do, like how safe is this really? And so that's why I went and dug into it. And was it boring as hell in a lot of points? Yes. And reading about like the encryption around the transactions and stuff, like if I could get somebody to read that as a sleep story, like no one would have insomnia ever again. It would be fantastic.
I don't know. I find stuff like that interesting. Like I'd like to read like technical manuals like that.
I do. My brain, like if it's a thing that I'm interested in, yes. If I'm not interested, then
yes,
immediately.
Okay.
So
for sure,
it's that. And like
I have a friend.
Yeah.
On one of my boards, and he gets really nerdy into like policy. And when we're discussing policy, it's not in English. I don't know what language they all started speaking, but I can't process it like language anymore. And that's when I start and think, I'm really glad I'm a junior member, because I can't follow this well enough to vote on it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Or I'm like, policy, I don't give a crap. I'll just do whatever I want.
Right.
Yeah. So I have a really fast story, because like the phone scammers, somebody was saying like I keep them on the phone so that they can't call the next person and scam them. And my aunt called me once out of nowhere, and she's one of the people in my family that if she calls me something's broken, like the grandkids put my iPad in another language and I can't get it back, or whatever. Like she only ever calls me with like a technical issue. I've answered that question, by the way. So she calls me up and she says, Kelly, I just wanted to call and tell you that I'm sorry. And I'm like, why? Because like I said, she only calls me if like her computer's broken or something happened to my uncle's computer or something like that. So she's calling me and right out the gate, I'm sorry. And I'm just like, oh no. And she said, somebody called the house and said that they were from Apple and said there was something wrong with my computer, and they were calling me from Apple tech support to get it fixed. And I'm just like, oh God, she
Oh,
gave them
no.
her credit card. Like I'm immediately like, I've been in technology too long. I'm immediately like worst case scenario. She wants me to help her get back like 15 grand from her credit card. And I don't know what to tell her. So I'm spinning up like all these worst case scenario things. And I'm like, okay. And she said, well, I asked him again. She said, the connection was bad. So I asked him to repeat himself. And he said he was from Apple and that he was in tech support and he wanted to help me with my computer. And so I said, oh, my niece works at Apple. Maybe she knows you. And he got aggravated with me and then he hung up. And so I know you don't work at Apple, but I'm sorry that I lied. And I'm like, first of all, this is the best story, and you can bet I'm going to tell people this story later. Second of all, that was the quickest thinking ever. You did way better than your other sister, the one that's not my mom, who gladly handed over her credit card number and $1,500 later managed to back out of the transaction. And third of all, they are counting on you being somebody who thinks it's impolite to get off the phone and hang up. So if you ever get somebody like that, if they don't hang up on you, hang up on them and tell them whatever you want about me. You can tell them I work at Apple. You can tell them I'm a mob boss. You can tell them I called them about their tech support. You can tell them
All of which is true.
anything you want to tell them about me, whether it's true or not. And you have my permission, and you never need to be sorry if you're using me to get a scammer off the phone. And she was like, okay, well, I know you don't work at Apple and I just wanted you. And I'm like, that was very lovely of you. And my feelings are not hurt in any way. Thank you for being smarter than your sister. Feel free to lord it over her later. And yeah.
It's nice.
Oh, she did
Yeah.
too. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Person needs a glitter bomb.
Because that was the time, that was when I got the call from my uncle, the aunt that got scammed. Her husband called me and he goes, so does Apple ever call you and want to know what's wrong with your computer? I said, no. Why? Hang up. And he goes in the other room and I can hear him like, hang up. Don't finish reading your credit card. Hang up. It was too late. And so she got stuck. And I was like, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's the next thing. Make a list of all the places that you use that number. Try to figure out, like online where you shop, like which card you used there, and like all like trying to help her like mop up, afterward and stuff. So yeah, it was rough because he called me and I'm like, he doesn't make phone calls. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. One little misstep can cost you so much. Maybe it won't cost you money, but it can cost you hours and days or more in time.
And time is money.
That's almost worse than the money thing. Sometimes
it is.
I mean, frankly, I didn't mention this on the show, but that's why I'm running to the two malware programs. It's like, I want double protection. Yes, I don't want to throw away money, but at the same time, if they're protecting me at all, then that's about 1 hour's worth of my time, not even counting the frustration factor that goes into it. So I'm happy to implement those things.
Well, and who wants to make those kind of phone calls and wait on hold for fun, right? Like, to get a new this, to get a new that, whatever.
Yep.
Like, so is this After Dark now, Chuck?
Oh, it's been After Dark. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because I'm going to add some value to After Dark for you. And here it is. So I think, I don't know how to do it in like Bitwarden's password manager, but LastPass has tags, 1Password has tags, and Dashlane I think has tags. And so I have 2 tags that I use that have saved my bacon more than once. And the first is in wallet. So any card that I carry around in my wallet, I have tagged in wallet. So I know exactly if my wallet disappears, if I set it down somewhere and can't find it again, I know exactly who all I have to call about it. And then I have another one that's I don't remember what the tag is for it, but like I have one for bill pay and I have another one for like, stored online or whatever. So that like if I do have to get a new credit card number, I can just go search that tag and I can go find, here's the ones. like, here's all the places that use that credit card number so that I know which
Mhm.
ones need updated, when I get the new number. Or here's the thing, like, here's all the auto pay things that I need to update, or whatever it is. And I have one for each of the
Mhm.
cards that I use for that stuff to make sure that if I get a new number, like, I can sit down for about 15 minutes and get everything taken care of. So those are
That's a good
like
idea.
the easiest things to do. Because I lost my wallet once for about a week. I found it, but it was just long enough to be like, I have to get new everything, and this is really bad. And like, what do I do about all of this? So it was, it was just long enough to be like, oh, that's bad. So then when I found it, I was like, I'm writing down everything that's in here. And then once everything in my wallet became something I had to have in my password manager anyway, it was very easy to just go, here's all the things in my wallet. And so if that happens again, I'm prepared.
That's actually a good idea. Like if you're not using privacy.com or something like that, like tag all the services, like which card you're using there. So okay, if this card got compromised, those are the services I have to update. And you can have like different tags for that.
And sort of riffing on that too. I mean, I like to keep photos of the back of my credit card in my case, 1Password. Because that way, if I lose it or it gets stolen or something happens, I have the number to call right there. I have all the information about, the bank and everything. It's right there, and it's more of a hassle, but I will just call and say, look, my card's been stolen, lost, hacked, whatever, kill it, and that just eliminates, it doesn't matter where I've used it.
Right.
Because the company then will go back and say, let's go over your last 10, 20 transactions, or when was the last time that you had the card?
Right.
And
the last legit one was this day, this time, whatever. Yeah.
Right. And that's not, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that is not that hard,
Right.
So just.
I copied all the information from the back because the iOS app has data detectors. So if you sit down and fill in, like, because if you go like add credit card and you go fill in the information for the credit card, it'll say on there like customer service or whatever, and you can fill in like the phone numbers and stuff, and then you just open the login item and you can tap on it and it makes the call for you. Like when iOS sees a phone number on a website and you tap on it and it goes, do you want to call? And you can call it. You can do the same thing with the iOS stuff. So I use that. I sat down and copied because none of that stuff really changes that much. Like the 800 number on the back doesn't change. And then like if I'm ever international and have to call collect because something happened to my credit card, like I have it right there, all of that information, like with your image, Chuck. So that's what I ended up doing with mine, just because it was one of those things where like I'm gonna like over engineer the snot out of this once and then I never have to do it again. And so now like I get a new number, I just swap out the number, glance at the back and go, those numbers all look the same. Okay, we're good. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. So it makes it very easy to do.
Hey, I'm going to say good night to the chat room. So, and to YouTube Live. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it as
Bye.
always.
Thank you,
Great
chat
to
room.
see you.
Great to see you.
Who all's there? Brian,
It's like
we've been
Brian.
having some extracurricular conversations, but Brian, Craig, Rich, who else was here?
Webb was there,
Webb.
I think,
I
for
know
a
Webb
while.
was
Webb.
here.
Yeah.
Webb was there,
I don't know
Cletus.
who's still here, but Cletus. Yeah.
Oh, and
but
Cletus. Hi,
thank-
Cletus.
Thank you guys all.